I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you. And welcome to JUCK on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me. We got some things to talk about today, guys. We're not going to do it, unfortunately, with our buddy Dylan Davis. Dylan Davis, whenever he and I are going to do a show, I always ask him when we're figuring out what time we're going to do that show, like, hey, you got an important game? And I schedule around his games. And the games I'm asking him about, I wouldn't know off the top of my head if he has an important one because it's a Boston Red Sox or a Boston Celtics game. And I'm not a Boston fan of anything, but he is. He's a Buckeye, but he's got this Boston thing going on. So I get a hold of Dill, and we're going to schedule a game. And he's like, no, I got no important games. All right, slick. Then we're about to record. Well, he gave me plenty of hours notice, but we were going to record on Monday night late for Tuesday morning. And I get a text from him saying that the Red Sox just called up the number one prospect in all of baseball, and he's going to be in the lineup Monday night. So we postponed with Dylan, and we're going to end up doing that for Wednesday's show. So no Dylan today. I apologize, but we got plenty of stuff to talk about, you and I. So last week, Buckeyes' top target remaining at cornerback, Justice Fitzpatrick, up and committed to Georgia out of the blue. His official visit was scheduled for Ohio State this upcoming weekend, and boom, not going to make it. Recruitment shut down. Then on Sunday, On3's Hayes Fawcett released that he was going to be coming up for his official visit, which is very exciting. When someone makes a quick, flippant decision like it felt like Justice Fitzpatrick made, those are the ones that are hardest for a school to hold on to. Those are the easiest ones to flip. Well, Dogs HQ, that is On3's Georgia site, has a guy named Rusty Mansell, who I've always found to be really tuned in. And he said he made some phone calls, was told by multiple sources that while Ohio State is pushing very hard for Justice to make that official, he's 100% not going to take it and locked into UGA. So that's what we know as of now. Could be coming, may not be coming. We got conflicting reports. Either way, we got Odom coming in, and he is the final cornerback on the board. He'll be in this weekend, and at least there's one. So the reason that it would be exciting to get Fitzpatrick on campus because he made a flippant decision similar to Jameer Perez. Jameer Perez will be coming for his official visit. He is the Glenville 360-pound nose tackle that committed to Florida kind of on a whim. And again, when a guy does it like that, when you're not expecting it, a lot of times you can get him off of that. And on Monday, the whole Glenville brigade came down. Ted Ginn Sr. brought him down, and included in that, Jameer Perez and Sincere Johnson. And Jameer was putting in work at camp. He was working hard with Larry Johnson. He looked pretty fleet of foot. Kid's got some talent, got just an amazingly large, muscular trunk. I really like that kid. So he's working out. You got Ted Ginn Sr. hanging out with Matt Patricia, watching defensive line drills, and everything looks really, really good for the potential for the Buckeyes this weekend when Perez comes in for his official visit to put the squeeze on and try to flip him off that Florida commit. Now, two things here. Like if this was 1995, I would say I am fully confident that the Buckeyes are going to be able to get this done. But a couple of things Perez has said throughout this, well, one thing in particular, the SEC thing, he feels like he's an SEC caliber player. And when he says that, what he's saying is that is where the best players play. And I'm an SEC caliber guy. So I can't stand that when I hear kids say that. And he's clearly feels very, very different about the SEC than he does about the Big Ten. The second thing is Florida, you know, they just had that 460-pound kid, and he's a really big kid. And he talked about how comfortable that staff is with guys his size. So a couple of things going against the Buckeyes there, but obviously the biggest thing is what is that money piece that they put in front of him? We know it was probably really, really good and probably something that Ohio State won't really ballpark like this. He's not super high on the Buckeyes priority list, though honestly, I feel like getting a kid like him should be pretty high. But he was kind of a late offer. It just doesn't feel like they're going to match some big deal if Florida offered him something big. And if they're not going to match that, how easy is this going to be to flip him off of it? I don't know, but I do know that I really want this type of guy, whether it's him or somebody else, at least a true one tech, a Preston Carey, a Ruffin from out of Alabama who just came in for his official. That was his first time up to Ohio State, and it doesn't look like there's a ton of movement right there. Cam Brickle, one of those dudes, but nobody's as like Damari Simeon is a 3 tech. It's really Jameer Perez is kind of in a league of his own when it comes to those true one techs there. So really, really interesting to see what happens this weekend with that. As far as other dudes in town this week, Brady Edmonds is still in town, and he was at camp on Monday throwing with the other quarterbacks. One of those quarterbacks, RJ Day, and they just one of the guys that was there released a clip of Brady Edmonds and RJ Day just throwing like a 30 or 20 yard out, but like a 30-yard throw, 15-yard out, 30-yard throw to the sideline, back to back. And it's just like, dude, don't put me next in line after Brady Edmonds. It's so messed up. 30 guys, and I got to be the one going right after Brady Edmonds. Nothing looks quite like it. It's an NFL arm, guys. It's something special. But Jameer Brown also at camp today, as was Jaden Ricketts. Those two who just I was talking yesterday about the 100-meter dash. Ricketts with a 10.76. He was fourth, and Jameer Brown took first with a 10.36, which is insane. But I do need to make a correction. In that episode, I said that Tyreek Hill's best 100-meter was a 10.44. That's incorrect. Thank you for that correction. I looked it up, looked in a little further, and Tyreek Hill actually ran a 10.19 at one point, and a wind illegal one that was wind aided, 9.98. Look, I don't even care if it's wind aided. That's insane to put that on a clock. Nevertheless, that doesn't take away from what Jameer Brown did, and Jaden Ricketts as well. So both those two receivers were in town and catching balls from their future quarterback, Brady Edmonds. And we're going to get into that class of 2027 at the end of today's show, because I think something interesting going on there. Speaking of a one tech, the Buckeyes did offer a one tech today. Unfortunately, not for the class of 2026. This is Caleb Tucker. Caleb Tucker out of Chicago, not a kid out of the South. No excuses. 6'5", 335 pounds, out of Chicago. The picture you're looking at is a kid in the class of 2028, nicknamed Bone Crusher. That is a freshman in high school at 6'5", 335. I'm guessing that's undershooting the weight there. Let's go ahead and lock that down right now. I'd like to ask you to please like today's show, and if you have not subscribed, hey, let's make it official. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I promise I will not bombard you with 5-minute clips of an hour-long show to just triple and quadruple my views. Not how I play it here. I might hit you with the 20-minute extra once in a while, but appreciate you guys so much, man. Every time I think I've learned something new on YouTube, or like what to put on the thumbnail, what people are going to be interested in, it's just like, yeah, you're back to square one. So yesterday on the show, I felt like I had to talk about the House settlement and how it affected Ohio State. And I never know what to put on the thumbnail, what to put, because I don't just talk about one thing. I'm talking about 3 or 4 things. All right. So which one do you put on the thumbnail and in the description? What do you put? So I usually put the thing that I either talk about most or the thing I think most people are going to want to hear about. And because during that show, I talked the most about the House settlement, I chose to use that. Not really thinking a whole lot of people would be interested, but knowing that the people who were interested would be really interested. So I went with that, and it was pretty popular. So I was happy. A lot of people wanted to hear about that. But on Monday, news dropped that is pertinent to that show, and we got to go over it because basically Ohio State was 3 steps ahead of the game here, and they are, obviously we talked about how uniquely positioned they are yesterday. like what they've done here, not the only ones. USC has done something similar, but USC, another program like Ohio State that's uniquely positioned here. But they came out with this announcement on Monday, and they are starting a group called the Buckeye Sports Group. And this group not just started to help business owners, but to, more importantly, help the players to make this as easy as possible to facilitate these deals. What were we doing before? If you wanted to do a deal before with an Ohio State player, you were dealing with the collectives. And the collectives did an admirable job helping Ohio State through a rough time. 500 total deals right now between companies and Ohio State players, probably more than most. I'm sure it is. But we're about to see that number explode. And the group that is going to be facilitating this for the players and the businesses is the Buckeye Sports Group. They're going to be doing this with the help of Learfield and Learfield's vast database of companies that want to be involved here. So the Buckeye Sports Group, the centralized hub for NIL. And there's going to be dedicated on-campus people that are just working in this department on campus to work with the students. Carrie Hoyt, Ohio State's Deputy Director of Athletics, says, by combining the power of our athletic brand with Learfield's expansive network, we're creating an innovative full-service approach to NIL that directly benefits our student athletes. All right, so what are the advantages here? The BSG can get these deals done fast and as many as we can get, like we were talking about yesterday. But for the business owners who want to be involved, they have no idea where to go. Like, they may want to be involved, but where do you go to get this done? How do you have any idea? How do I go get a hold of an Ohio State player to do a deal like this? Well, now you've got a centralized hub here, and you can basically go and get a deal with anybody you want in the school through them. And not only do they link you with the player, but they walk you through everything. What potential deal are you looking for? Well, let me show you what other people have done in the past. Let me show you what those kind of deals cost with that kind of player. They're going to walk the student athlete and the business through the contract. They're going to help the student athlete negotiate the contract. They're going to track what the fair market value is before it even goes to NIL deal through their own database. They're going to help the student athlete. Let's say the student athlete doesn't have someone who comes looking for them in particular. Well, they're going to go through Learfield's database and try to link them up with all these potential businesses that are looking always for someone new to use for something. And it's just going to be the way that they're going to facilitate to make the most of these deals happen as possible. They're going to utilize and track NIL performance in return on investment with the companies. So let's say me as the business, I want to make a deal. Well, they're going to show me, okay, here's what some deals in the past have done for this company and that company and that company. So it's just a big group of professionals that are dealing strictly with facilitating these deals. And they got this massive Learfield database that is going to be full of companies that want to work with these students. And Ohio State will be the leader in this market. And this is going to be the way that they're going to facilitate that. It's perfect. It's awesome. I love it. And again, a couple steps ahead of the game here. Now, USC has created something similar, and I believe they're working with Learfield as well, probably with this same exact setup, I would imagine. I saw this last week from their website, and I imagine some other big schools will jump on. But again, the way the Buckeyes are positioned here is just perfect. They're also going to help with some other things like content creation for students, for like social media content, podcasts, video series. Not sure what that all entails, but they have a Learfield Studios. Sounds really interesting. And they're going to leverage Learfield's fan base data and digital expertise to optimize distribution across social media and digital channels. For instance, I don't want to be wasting my money sending ads that are sponsored by Ohio State players to places that aren't Ohio State friendly. You know what I mean? So we don't want to have Ohio State ads popping up on the Michigan Insider or their Instagram places that they follow. You know what I mean? So provide market resources for brand collaborations to maximize results, including the use of the Ohio State trademarks, logos, and access to campus facilities. Now, this is big. In the past, we've seen this with Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith. They're doing commercials and they're wearing these bootleg Ohio State uniforms. Have you ever seen this? I'll find you a picture. So these bootleg Ohio State uniforms, take a look at these things. They're hilarious. And now, when you do a deal with the players, you're going to be able to use the Ohio State branding, which is very good. They've got athlete support services that are going to provide financial literacy, tax support, branding, and social media growth training to help athletes build their personal brands. Now, this is big. I was talking to Brady Edmonds about this 2 days ago when he tweeted something and tagged me in it as he's trying to grow his social media brand. And he said, it's really important now with the new deal to be able to grow your social media. And, we talked about this, that this is what NIL Go is using as one of the barometers to judge your fair market value. How big is your social media following? So our dude Brady, always on top of it. Let's all go follow him. I'll put his handle right here. This is important now, guys. This is an area that we can flex Ohio State muscle. The bigger the social media following is for Ohio State players, and this is actually hard data that we're going to be able to show in recruiting. Look at our players' social media following versus their players' social media following. This is now a metric by which these guys are getting paid. So we need to follow all of our guys, all of our recruits, and unfollow them if they go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a way we can actually turn our huge fan base into money for our players just by following them on social media. So I think a big campaign to get this done and to keep that rolling so that this is something that they can market to prospective recruits, to get our guys that play hard and deserve to go make the most they can out of their deals. This is a way that they are judging how much they're worth. So let's flex our muscle. There's no reason not to. And they're going to connect student athletes with brand partners to provide business experience and micro internships. So they're also going to have certain companies in this Learfield database that are open to working with these student athletes in these micro internships. And it's just another opportunity for the student athletes. So we've got tons of avenues by which to facilitate the businesses and the students to get together and get this done. A streamlined process. It all looks great on paper. I can't wait to see how it works. And I will be heavily involved in trying to figure that out. There's no doubt about it. If Luke Waffle comes to Ohio State, like, that's my dude. First ad campaign coming up with me and Luke Waffle. You guys will see it here first. But I'm definitely going to check this out, see how it works. And it's great. This is Buckeye muscle right here. A lot of questions about what's going to happen with the current NIL structure. What happens to the 1870? What happens to the foundation? So that was actually addressed in this statement here. The founding members of the foundation and the 1870 Society will remain engaged and serve in an advisory capacity with the Buckeye Sports Group. Additionally, recurring donations and subscriptions made to the foundation or the 1870 will continue to play a vital role in supporting Ohio State athletics. Now, what exactly does that mean? I don't know. I don't know because, as we've discussed, they got to be real NIL deals, which means you can't just give a lump sum of money to somebody. They got to work for it. It's got to be in the form of a deal. So where are those donations going and like what's happening with that money that's been donated? Like, these schools have been actively trying to liquidate this money that's been sitting in these NILs before this happened. Remember, we were talking about they were front loading deals. That's why we saw so many schools going crazy, paying a ton of money. They were getting rid of this money because they can't spend it when these rules come into effect. So I don't quite understand what's going on with that. I'll have to do some more digging on that. But as far as these deals go, it is now being taken out of the hands of those foundations. They're going to sit on the advisory and they're going to help advise. And I don't see any need to continue to donate. I won't be donating to any of the NIL funds anymore. Unless I'm missing something here, and I very well could be. But I don't see the need for that anymore. I think it's cool of Bjork and Ohio State to involve them. And I know that not everybody is thrilled about the people in one or the other of the two foundations, and I get it. But the truth is those folks stepped up and did the legwork that nobody else was willing to do for all of us when it needed to be done. And the whole thing, yeah, it's all seedy in a weird, gross environment, and none of it felt good at all. But like, somebody had to do it, and they did it. Whatever reason they did it for, they did it, and they kept us in the ball game. So, they deserve a bit of gratitude and a healthy pat on the back from all of us for making sure that somebody was in that role, helping us get that done. You know what I mean? So that's the way I feel about it. But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, there will be no more donations to an NIL fund from me. And cannot wait to see how this goes with the Buckeye Sports Group, which will now fuel Ohio State's NIL deal-making success. And they've only got 500 NIL deals and brand partnerships with Buckeye students across all 36 sports. Going to blow up. Now, about those 36 sports. Stanford has a similar amount of sports. Stanford owns the Olympics, right? They pump kids into the Olympics. I don't know if you knew that, but like that's their thing. Swimming and all the jazz, right? Ohio State doesn't. Ohio State is a football school. And when we look at another football school, let's say Alabama, they have 20 sports. When Ross Bjork and Ted Carter first came in, their initial thought on having all 36 sports moving forward, which was something Gene Smith was very prideful about and always wanted to have, they felt like, yeah, we're not so sure. And shortly after that, they doubled down and said, yes, we're going to keep all 36 sports. And then this all happened with the settlement. And I thought maybe we'd hear them kind of back off that again. Bjork comes out and says he's dedicated to the 36 sports again. And when we look again at other football schools, Ohio State's the only one that is doing this. Now, we talked last week about the stadium and how Penn State, Alabama, Texas, Georgia, all been able to maintain their historic stadiums through upkeep through the years. And Ohio State's not been. They're falling behind. And this right here is the biggest contributor. This is the wealthiest athletic department in the country. And many Ohio State contributors and donors are tired of it. Like at some point, I expect Ross to be singing a different tune. Because they're the ones that continually get asked to donate when Ohio State needs to build something. Like 36 sports, we could go down the list of them. No, it's not screw every other sport. But there are some sports that the school's paying for, that football is paying for. And those of us who care the most about football, it's getting neglected. It's just the facts. You want to have everything. You can't. You can't have everything. You can't have 36 sports and apparently also have a stadium that gets kept on through the years. New facilities updated at the same time frame that other programs are having theirs updated. Ohio State doesn't have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. And it's all the sports that could be dropped to a club level, like at places like Alabama and Georgia and Texas, that Ohio State carries so many more of and has to pay for. In addition, they play in the Big Ten. It's a coast-to-coast conference. We're flying kids all over the country in sports that are non-revenue sports. It's straight throwing money at these sports. It's hemorrhaging money. I want everybody at the university to be active. Like, it's a great source of pride. I even love when I see Ohio State fencing win a national championship, just like you. I get it. However, how much does it cost those kids if they take that on themselves? What if you restructure this and quit playing in the Big Ten with it? Just, I don't know, play local, play in Ohio, play the MAC schools, like make it a club system or something. It just doesn't make sense. It just does not make financial sense to continue to dig your heels in on these 36 sports that nobody else pays for. Like Stanford, hey man, they're rich. They got an endowment of a couple $2 billion. Like it's just not the same. So anyway, I want to talk about the class of 2027 right now. And I don't like to talk about, like last year, I didn't like to talk about the class of 2026 because it just gets confusing. But I want to talk about 2027 real quick. Just because we talk about the national championship bump and how historically, not so sure, we don't have enough evidence now in the new system with pay for play, but historically that bump has taken place in the following year. Now, right now, that would be this year's Michigan class. For Ohio State, that would be the 2027 class. Let's have a brief conversation about this class. You've got Brady Edmonds spearheading this thing, and Brady taking ownership of it, which he was the first top 25 quarterback to commit to somebody. So huge advantage right there. You've got the inside track with DGG, David Gabriel George, the number one running back in the country who loves Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes, the early leader for him. Obviously, you got the number one wide receiver in the country in Jameer Brown. He is a commitment. Then you got Keenan Bailey, who is now fixated on his number one target, who this time happens to be someone that the ratings agree with, is that high on the board, and that's number 2 tight end Brock Williams out of Illinois. Now, Brady Edmonds is taking this thing over, and I showed you the picture with him yesterday and Brock Williams. Brady's all over him. They're becoming best friends. And right now, Buckeyes are in a great spot early for Brock. This would be the first time that Keenan Bailey has gone all in like he does with guys on a guy that the rankings agree with. Remember, as much as most of us feel like Nate Roberts is a top 5 tight end in the country, he wasn't even ranked in the top 10. He wasn't ranked in the top 15 tight ends. That was a big miss by them. Keenan saw it. Props on him, but he went all in on him. And the reason I have Keenan ranked so high in the Ohio State recruiting board is when Keenan goes all in on somebody, Keenan gets his guy. He doesn't take no for an answer. It'll be a much different story if it's the number 2 tight end of the country, just because that draws so much more of that crazy attention from other schools. So cannot wait to see this thing shape up. But number 1 running back, number 2 tight end, number 1 wide receiver, Brady Edmonds, number 6 quarterback in the composite right now. This is just absurd. He'll be top 3 when it's all said and done. And he continues. Look, when he gets into his senior year and starts doing what he does, there's just no way. I just refuse to believe that didn't have anything to do with him being the only one that was committed out of the top 25, which means he's not interesting anymore. All these other guys are more interesting. Now, I want to talk about Jalen Brewster because I have to show you something. So the Buckeyes are in a unique spot with Jalen Brewster. And we first discussed him the other day. He is a dude that looks 30 years old, the number 1 defensive lineman in the country from Texas. His dad is from Ohio. According to Jalen Brewster, his dad was really glad to be back home when they came up and visited Ohio State. And his dad has a Buckeye tattoo on his arm. Brewster said of his visit, the visit was great. I'm not going to lie. I love how the culture is based off of a brotherhood and how you can't do anything without your brothers. That's how you win football games, is win with your brothers. The culture and the family atmosphere stand out. The players are all really tight with each other. Everyone feels like family. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because I know a lot of people don't get that Ohio State offer, and a lot of people want that offer. Now, I showed you his picture the other day, but I didn't show you his tape. And I queued it up for the first time, and I watched the shiftiest 300-pounder I have ever seen in my life. And if you think that describing a defensive tackle as shifty is strange, it's because I'm not describing a defensive tackle. I'm describing a running back. And I'm not talking about a goal line running back. I'm talking they give this 300-pound kid the football at the 50-yard line. It's even crazier than watching Deuce Gerald run the ball at 265. And this 300 pounder looks like he's got, I don't know, the hips of a 235 pounder, which sounds ridiculous in itself. It is remarkable. Now, like we talked about historically, you get that bump for the national championship the following recruiting class, Ohio State, with Brown, with Brady. Could the 2027 class be the white whale? Could it be the recruiting crown class? The first year of Ohio State in the new system, kind of a leveling of the playing field from the idiots who go and spend a ridiculous amount of money on kids coming out of high school, and Ohio State refuses to. Could it be? I think it's just, look, it's on pace here. When we look at this, everything's kind of lining up to start off with a ridiculous bang, like huge head start here. When we look in class, you got a lineman in Khalil Johnson, who is, in state, a lineman in Khalil Johnson, who's top 300 right now. He'll continue to climb. You've got Ace Alston, stud corner. You've got two top 10 linebackers in the class that are in the state of Ohio. Like, there are dudes in this class. You got a top 100 edge rusher. So you got some in-state guys. You always need that. Got your quarterback, got your wide receiver, got a couple of other wide receivers that, there is the potential of three, like the 1, 2, 3 wide receiver in the Midwest could all be Ohio State, not in the Midwest, in the country, could be Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. How many of those three can Brian Hartline get? It's all lining up. Could be magical. Could be. Of course, we got to wait a long time for that. Now, speaking of recruiting, I just want to say, man, I had somebody come at me the other day for missing on Albert Hill, saying that I said he was going to come to Ohio State. And I absolutely did early on. And then I course corrected over a month before he committed. I said that and talked about it extensively, why it was that I no longer felt that way. Like, things change in recruiting. So I'm happy to take an L. I'm not taking an L on that when I, a month prior to him committing, was saying, no, Ohio State is not recruiting him in a way that's making the family happy. They're very irritated. If things don't change from Ohio State, he's going to leave. I have faith Ohio State will turn it on at some point. And then maybe 2 weeks before he recruited said, I've lost faith Ohio State will turn it on. So if I'm saying a month before somebody commits that they're not going, like, does it really matter that at first I said I thought they were? I'm not taking the L. Look, number one, these things are fluid. At the time, things were different when I said that. Things changed. So not taking that L on that. Refuse to. A month before he committed. I'm not talking like a Steve Wiltfong, like 35 minutes before he announced. A month. So, again, I'll take an L when I earn an L, and I earn plenty. I did not earn an L on that. In addition, when we talk about recruiting and we talk about things like that, like, I cannot stand people who do things like, take Jameer Brown, for instance. I knew Jameer Brown was committing before anybody, which was the Indiana game. You saw no eyeballs on my Twitter. There were no goofy, cryptic hints like, welcome to the class, young man, like you see people say on a day like the spring game when it's very likely someone's going to commit, or an official visit day with 25 guys who are visiting and it's very likely somebody's going to commit. You don't see a cup of tea. I don't play these games. I tell you when I'm talking to a player. I tell you when I'm taking a shot and just reading the tea leaves. And I tell you exactly why I said it. I walk you through my logic on it. Being in the business of recruiting is the last thing I'd ever want to do. I'm not even in the business of podcasting. I do it for fun. It just does so happen that I do now have several contacts. They probably tell me more than they tell people who make it their business, because the people who make it their business and call themselves insiders, yeah, they're reluctant to tell them things. And I don't divulge information, which is why I didn't put some stupid eyeballs for Jameer Brown or for Jake Cook or for any of the other ones that I've known were coming before anybody else. And that just really irks me when somebody's going to give me a loss and I didn't earn it. Like, I'll take it if I earn it. And I just did a mock class. There will be several L's on the mock class. I said it when I put it out because recruiting these days is way different than it used to be. You can switch somebody's mind like this, and the relationship and everything up to that point meant nothing. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. I will accept fair criticism when it's fair. That one wasn't fair. So appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. Juggabucks out.